You're listening to the Wrestle Havoc Podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky DeReyes. This is the Wrestle Havoc Podcast.
What's up, everybody? It is yours truly, Flamin' Ricky DeReyes, right here on the Wrestle Havoc Podcast, here to review Friday Night SmackDown from January 19th, 2024. We got a lot of things to talk about right here on the SmackDown review. Of course, we are hitting closer and closer to the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble is going to be taking place in Tropicana Field next Saturday, and all eyes are set on the four-way. Of course, the fatal four-way match is official, as we are going to be getting Roman Reigns to defend his undisputed championship against the megastar LA Knight, the phenomenal AJ Styles, and the Apex Predator, Randy Orton. I think it's going to be a great match. Of course, that match is official, and it was made official on the SmackDown show. A lot of news coming out in the realm of professional wrestling, and this really has nothing to do with the SmackDown show, but a lot of news coming out of WWE, especially in regards to Seth Rollins. Everybody's talking about Seth Rollins in regards to his injury, and I'm actually going to be saving all of that for Wrestle Havoc Daily tomorrow. I actually didn't upload a Wrestle Havoc Daily today because I wanted to see all of the news that was going to be transpiring regarding Seth Rollins, so I'm going to be gathering all of that information up for Wrestle Havoc Daily for tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that upload right here on the Wrestle Havoc channel. But nonetheless, SmackDown, overall thoughts on the show as a whole. I thought the show was really good. Of course, it focused on one thing and one thing alone, and that was Roman Reigns finally coming into television and wanting to get things done. He wanted the Bloodline to fix things. They had failed him, so Roman Reigns came in and did business the way Roman Reigns does business, and that is basically kind of fuck everything up and get the Fatal 4-Way match anyway, because that is the match that we are going to be getting at the Royal Rumble. But nonetheless, overall, I thought it was a pretty good show. We had the return of Pete Dunne. Yes, Butch is no more. The Bruiserweight Pete Dunne is back. Of course, he teamed up with Tyler Bate for the second time, and they faced off against, of course, Pretty Deadly. We had other matches on this show. Of course, we had technically two main events on this show, as we had AJ Styles wrestle LA. Of course, both men are going to be a part of the four-way match at the Royal Rumble next Saturday, as well as the main event, that being Randy Orton facing off against the enforcer of the Bloodline, Solo Sikoa. Not necessarily a long match, to say the least, but the match as a whole, in my opinion, got the job done, and that was the most important thing coming out of that whole match. And of course, we had the entirety of Roman Reigns coming out and causing mayhem. But, of course, when he was about to spear Randy Orton, he got caught in the RKO. But we also had the Kevin Owens show. Yes, the Kevin Owens show. Kevin Owens, of course, had a segment with Logan Paul, as Kevin Owens is set to face Logan Paul at the Royal Rumble for the United States Championship. I loved the segment. I thought it was a great, little back and forth between both Logan Paul and Kevin Owens, and I think their match that they're going to be having at the Royal Rumble is going to be absolutely amazing, in my opinion. But before I get on with all this craziness regarding Friday Night SmackDown, please make sure to like and subscribe to the Wrestle Havoc channel right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the friggin' referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, follow me on social media on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. All right, let's get ahead with this SmackDown show. The show kicks off with, of course, the Bloodline, that being Roman Reigns. Well, the camera pans with Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa in the beginning, and then the camera turns to Roman Reigns and the wise man Paul Heyman arriving to the arena. Roman asks Paul Heyman, what did he say? What did I say? Did you fix things? Did you fix things like I told you last week? And Paul says no. And Roman has a pissed off look on his face. Of course, you don't want to anger your tribal chief, by the way. Paul says no, and Roman says, that is why I'm here, to fix everything. And then the camera pans to Solo Sikoa. Yes, the camera is panning to Solo Sikoa. Meanwhile, Nick Aldis, the current SmackDown General Manager, is in the ring. He welcomes us to a sold-out SmackDown Live from Atlanta, Georgia at the State Farm Arena. And, of course, this is the official contract signing for the Fatal 4-Way match at the Royal Rumble. And he brings out everybody one by one. AJ Styles comes out, and then AJ immediately signs the contract. Then the megastar, LA Knight, comes out, and then he signs his contract, or the contract, I should say. And then Randy Orton comes out, and then Randy signs the contract. Nick Aldis then brings out the current champion, of course, the head of the table, the tribal chief, Roman Reigns, the current undisputed champion. And Roman Reigns comes out, but instead of Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman alone comes out with a microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman. Now, in case you're not watching your own show, Mr. SmackDown Executive, your tribal chief, Roman Reigns, and I just arrived in the building. We haven't had a chance to submit this contract to an attorney, let alone the wise man getting his eyes on this document. So therefore, unfortunately, Roman Reigns will not sign the contract this evening. Then Nick Aldis says that Roman Reigns isn't signing the contract. That is absolutely fine, because he has 3 signatures, and he will make it a triple threat match at the Royal Rumble for the vacant. And this is when Paul Heyman walks off. Paul Heyman walks off, but then Nick Aldis put out a key, and he says that everybody, besides Roman, has signed the contract, so he will make this a triple threat match for the vacant, undisputed championship. Paul Heyman then has a shocked look on his face, and he walks back into the ring. Paul Heyman then goes to the apron, and he gets closer to the current SmackDown General Manager, Nick Aldis. And he says, I don't know if you realize this, Mr. Aldis, but of course I care deeply about you. And he's trying to be all kiss ass. He's trying to become a little bit of a kiss ass to the current SmackDown General Manager. I am deeply concerned about you, sir. Of course, I halfway respect you and admire the mediocre job as the current SmackDown General Manager. The fact that he does a mediocre job, but while doing it, he looks really good at it, especially in this Paul Heyman wannabe custom suits. No matter how good he looks, there is no way he could sell this to the board of directors, of course, and the fine people of Atlanta, Georgia. Or there is no way you could sell this to Roman Reigns, who does call the shot because he should be defending his title in a one-on-one match, says Mr. Wiseman. LA Knight then interrupts, and he says he is right about one thing. This should be a one-on-one match, mainly because he had him pinned at Crown Jewel, and that wasn't until your goons went to attack me and cost me the match. And then, of course, he threatens Paul Heyman, and he says that this should be his rematch, but AJ and Randy all of a sudden show up. It should be him. It should be me getting this match, not AJ and Randy Orton. Then AJ Styles interrupts, and he says he doesn't get it. The Bloodline tried to end his career. He walked over his dead body to get that match with Roman, and he lost. He is even lucky to be in this match. But then LA Knight replies, if there's anyone with a horseshoe planted up his keister, it should be him. He should, watch the bass of his voice. And he threatens AJ Styles. And AJ says that they aren't fighting Roman Reigns. They are fighting each other. And then, of course, LA Knight continues to ramble on. He talks about how he will pin either one of you guys and I will become champion. If that means I have to walk over your dead body, I will do it again. Which then leads to AJ Styles to get pissed off, and it's not really easy, or it is easy, I should say, to piss off AJ Styles. AJ Styles attacks LA Knight. Both men fight it out on the stage, and then Nick Aldis and the rest of the WWE officials come in to break it up. After that, AJ runs towards LA Knight again. All hell breaks loose at this point. Meanwhile, Paul Heyman is in the ring apron watching all this unfold. Meanwhile, he doesn't even realize that Randy Orton is in the ring. Randy Orton is in the ring. Randy is still there, and he grabs his tie, and he's just playing and toying with Paul Heyman's suit tie. And he says he sees what he is trying to do. But it's not going to work because he will drop Solo tonight, and he will beat him in this ring 1, 2, 3. And after he does that, he will reintroduce Roman Reigns to the 3 most dangerous letters in all of sports entertainment. And Paul Heyman has this rough look on his face. RKO. overall thoughts on this segment. This was a great opening segment. I absolutely loved this opening segment. I like the idea of us getting the four-way. Yes, would it be better if we had gotten a one-on-one match between Randy Orton and Roman Reigns? It would make more sense considering Randy Orton just recently returned at Survivor Series. I thought we were going to be getting a one-on-one match between Roman Reigns and Randy Orton at the Royal Rumble, but of course they added the four-way considering AJ Styles was kind of meddled in with the Bloodline stuff, as well as LA Knight, of course, coming off of Crown Jewel. But nonetheless, the idea of the four-way match, of course, they announced the match a couple of weeks ago, and it was not like official, but now it is official. But it took the entire show to make it official, and that is exactly what I like. Keep the viewer invested in what they are watching. This entire, build-up to Roman Reigns signing the contract so they can make this match official was really one of the most intriguing parts of this whole SmackDown episode, and I really liked it. But nonetheless, this was a great opening segment. Everybody basically said their piece. A lot more. AJ Styles and LA Knight said more than Randy Orton, but really, Randy Orton doesn't really need to say anything because we all know why he is there. But everybody is still talking about the outcome, the possible outcome, and what we are possibly going to be seeing at the Royal Rumble in regards to this Fatal 4-Way match. There's no chance in hell, and I mean this wholeheartedly, there is no chance in hell that Roman Reigns is going to be dropping those titles. I said this for the last 2 weeks. It is the stupidest idea in the world to have Roman Reigns drop the title in a 4-way match, because then you rendered everything that you have done with Roman Reigns since the summer of 2020 absolutely useless. I've talked about this for the past 2 weeks right here on the SmackDown review. It is a dumb idea for Roman Reigns to drop those titles at the Royal Rumble. Now, when it comes to Seth Rollins' injury, we do not know if Seth Rollins is going to be out for how long. He's going to be going to show up on Raw this Monday, and he's going to address the troops and everything. I mentioned Seth Rollins because when it comes to Seth Rollins, that could drastically change plans for WrestleMania. And it could drastically change plans for WrestleMania when it comes to the World Heavyweight title scene, but also it can also change the trajectory when it comes to Roman Reigns and who is he going to face on the road to WrestleMania and who is he going to face at WrestleMania. I mentioned Seth Rollins because, again, when it comes to Seth Rollins, he's kind of the catalyst of everything, considering we do not know what's going to be going on with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania at this point. But again, man, it's very interesting when it comes to Seth Rollins' injury. I don't know, man. Plans could easily change when it comes to Seth Rollins, but not only that, it could easily change when it regards to Roman Reigns as well. That's just me. But, that's just my opinion in regards to the matter. But nonetheless, Roman Reigns should not drop that undisputed title, in my opinion. Roman Reigns should easily retain and take it all the way to WrestleMania. I talked about Seth Rollins earlier, and everybody was talking about, if Seth Rollins is going to be vacating the World Heavyweight title, they should do the Royal Rumble. Whoever wins the Royal Rumble wins the World Heavyweight title. And some people were even saying Cody should win the World Heavyweight title, and I'm like, absolutely not. Again, Seth Rollins could easily change the trajectory of WrestleMania regarding his injury, and that could easily affect Roman Reigns as well in regards to who is he going to be facing at WrestleMania. But at the end of the day, Roman Reigns should face Cody Rhodes. End off. The Rock, we talked about The Rock so many times on this channel. The Rock should be for the Elimination Chamber. We got the LWO. Yes, the LWO, Cruz del Toro, Joaquin Wilde, and Carlito Cool. I spit in the face of people who don't want to be cool. Taking on Legado Del Phantasma, consisting of Santos Escobar, who is the leader of the group, as well as the tag team of Angel Garza and Humberto. This was a great trios match, in my opinion. A phenomenal trios match. Angel Garza attacks Carlito from behind. We get a chop by Carlito, and then Carlito tags Cruz del Toro. We then get a kick by Cruz, and then Angel goes for a chop. Then we get a springboard head scissors by Cruz del Toro. Joaquin Wilde makes the tag, and then we get the double team by the LWO. We get a cover and another 1 count. We then get a right hand by Joaquin Wilde, and then we get an overhand chop by Joaquin Wilde. Wilde then takes out both men. Santos gets sent to the outside, and then Wilde and Del Toro go for the double senton over the top rope on the outside. Once we're back from commercial break, the heels are in control. Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo drop Wilde on the knee of Santos, and then Santos is the legal man. The heels then gang up on Wilde in the corner, and then we get a running drop kick by Garza. Humberto goes for the tag, and then we get a running kick by Humberto, and then we get a beautiful tornado DDT by Wilde on Humberto. But then Garza takes out the LWO. Carlito tags in. He fights off Legado del Phantasma, and then we get a dropkick by Carlito, followed by a spinebuster by Carlito. And then we get a cover into near fall when Escobar interferes. Then we get the springboard enziguri by Humberto on Carlito, and then Cruz goes for the diving headbutt for the save. We get a kick by Joaquin Wilde on Santos Escobar, but then Angel Garza goes for a kick. We then get a spinebuster by Carlito on Angel Garza. Santos then goes for the blind tag, and then Carlito ends up going for the backstabber, and that leads to Santos to get the roll-up on Carlito and get the win. Of course, Santos and Legado del Phantasma now have one up over the LWO. This is great stuff. Every time when, Cruz del Toro, Joaquin Wilde are in the ring, they always deliver a banger of a match. One concern, though, that I have is the crowd reactions, because usually whenever we would get these types of matches, WWE is more of a casual audience, but like when we get many of these high spot type of matches, the crowd is usually dead for most of the match, and that really does suck. Like if this was AEW, the crowd would go absolutely batshit crazy. But this is a casual audience, but nonetheless, I appreciate the effort. Cruz del Toro and Joaquin Wilde are absolutely phenomenal. They are a great tag team. I'm digging the pairing of Humberto and Angel Garza with Santos Escobar. Of course, once Santos Escobar distanced himself from the LWO, a lot of people were speculating whether or not Cruz del Toro or Joaquin Wilde, were going to join Legado del Phantasma once again because they're Legado del Phantasma OGs. But I love the fact that they chose a tag team that they weren't really doing a lot with in Humberto and Angel Garza, and now they're adding them as a part of the new Legado del Phantasma with Santos Escobar because I think it's going to elevate them further on down the line. I would even expect them to win maybe tag team titles in the future. You never know. But Santos Escobar right now is on a singles tear. Of course, now he is a heel, and Santos Escobar is a phenomenal heel on all levels. We get of course, we have a segment with the Street Profits and Bobby Lashley. Of course, they target the Final Testament, and they talk about their intimidation tactics, and they congratulate them because they have their attention. And then the Street Profits say that this isn't the smoke that they want. Of course, Lashley says, name the time and the place. When they find them, they will show them what real intimidation looks like. Then we got our next match. Pretty Deadly take on Tyler Bate. And you could easily say Butch, but I think saying Butch, let's be real honest with ourselves. I think Butch is dead. Butch is no more. And now we have the return of the Bruiserweight. Yes, Butch is no more. Of course, if you guys watched SmackDown last week, there was a video package with Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne getting, coffee with one another. And Tyler Bate was basically motivating Butch to really go back to where you all started, get back to what brought you to the dance. And that wasn't Butch, that was the Bruiserweight. Be who you were meant to be. And that was himself, the Bruiserweight, Pete Dunne. Overall thoughts on Pete Dunne making his return. I absolutely love it. One thing I will say, at this point, I was starting to get used to Butch, but I always preferred Pete Dunne because that's how I and a lot of other fans knew Butch as. He was known as Pete Dunne. The fact that they named him Butch, and that was not a Triple H decision. That was when Vince McMahon was still running the company, when he was still running the creative ends of the company, they named him Butch. And if you guys remember the early incarnation of the Butch character, it was way, and I mean way over the top. Not only way over the top, but also completely far off from what the Bruiserweight Pete Dunne was down in NXT, which is even crazier to think. The early incarnation of Pete Dunne was basically a guy that just wanted to pick a fight with everybody. Like, he was that little rascal that was just going to go and just beat the shit out of anybody that crosses path. That was basically the early incarnation of Butch. Once Triple H took over the creative reins of WWE, slowly but surely they started to have Butch become more of Pete Dunne and have less of the, outlandish campiness that Vince McMahon had Butch doing, which is great to see. And then over like the next year and a half, Butch basically became Pete Dunne. And then, of course, once the Brawling Brutes, Sheamus kind of disappeared from television and Rich Holland went down to NXT, Butch was really on his own. So now, since Butch is on his own, what is Butch going to be doing without the Brawling Brutes? And from what it looks like right now, the Brawling Brutes are no more. And Butch is now finally what he was meant to be, and that was the Bruiserweight. Of course, the former WWE United Kingdom champion, Pete Dunne. And honestly, this was the right decision to make because Butch was not going to do anything under that name. Everybody knows him as Pete Dunne. And I think it's going to resonate well with the main roster audience. That's just my opinion. But we got Pretty Deadly versus Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne. Of course, Tyler Bate and Wilson starts. Pete Dunne goes for the tag and takes out Wilson. And then he stomps on the arm of Wilson. And then he tries to twist the fingers of Pete Dunne. And then he tries to snap the arm of Kit Wilson. After that, he stomps on his leg. And then Bate tags in. Then off the second rope, he hits a senton on the shoulders of Dunne, that being Tyler Bate. And then we get an airplane spin by Tyler Bate on Wilson. He proceeds to slam him down. Once we're back from commercial break later on in the match, we get a side headlock by Wilson, who is the legal man. Of course, we get a boot by Tyler. Bate then catches Wilson and hits a suplex. Dunne tags in. He fights off everybody. We get a German suplex on Wilson, and then he stomps on his hands. And then after that, Elton Prince hits a German suplex, but then Dunne lands on his feet. And after that, they stack Pretty Deadly together with a release-modified suplex. That is exactly what Pete Dunne did. And then he has that look on his eyes. The camera pan to Pete Dunne, and he has that crazy look on his eyes. Prince has a boot, or hits a boot, I should say. And then Bate tags in. We get a left hand by Tyler Bate, and then he goes for the lariat. And then, of course, we get the double team, the double enziguri by both babyfaces in the corner. Bate takes Wilson over the top rope on the outside, but then Pete Dunne works on Prince's hands, and then he ends up going for the bitter end. Pete Dunne hits the bitter end. He goes for the cover and gets the 1-2-3. Pete Dunne gets the win. Overall thoughts on this match. A relatively short match. Of course, this was on SmackDown, but this match got the job done, and it sold you on the fact that Butch is no longer Butch anymore. This is the Bruiserweight, and the Bruiserweight is here to stay. So I loved how they showcased Pete Dunne. It's basically the same character that he was before, but, Pete Dunne is now the real him, that being the Bruiserweight. Pretty Deadly is in a backstage interview. They talk about how they were not ready. They prepared for Butch, but they ran into a brand new person, and they were basically pissed off. After that, we got the Kevin Owens show with host Kevin Owens, of course, with the special guest Logan Paul. Kevin Owens thanks the crowd. He says he appreciates the support, and he will say a sentence that he would never thought he would say, and he welcomes Logan Paul. Logan Paul comes out, he laughs at him, and he thanks him for inviting him on his show. He talks about how he is honored, and he says, why would he be honored to be a part of a Janny excuse for a show? But it's his show now. It's his show now. And it starts now. And, of course, he's glad he invited him because he owes him a proper thank you. But he is the reason why he is in the WWE. And Kevin Owens is like, what? I ain't the reason why you were in the WWE, but what happens is Kevin Owens, or I should say Logan Paul, shows us footage. If he will blame him for that, he will explain himself. Logan Paul then proceeds to show a clip from WrestleMania 37. So that was back in 2021. Fun fact, I attended WrestleMania 37 Night 1. I did not attend Night 2 in Tampa. But it shows a clip of Kevin Owens stunnering Logan Paul at WrestleMania 37. And then the camera pans back to Logan Paul, and he says that he embarrassed him in front of 70,000 people. And just like that, when he hit him with the stunner and all of the people cheered, he was feeling it. And it was that moment when he realized that he needed to prove himself and everybody else that he belonged in the WWE. Kevin Owens is the reason that he became a WWE superstar. So, thank you, Kevin. Kevin Owens then replies. He says, obviously, it happened, but he barely remembers that. That's the most Kevin Owens line I've ever heard in my life. To him, it was dramatic. His first WrestleMania, he's coming out as a guest, and for him, he's been doing this for well over 25 years. He is, he is more than many. He's as stunned, and especially going into WrestleMania, and he was just another celebrity guest, but it turned out that he wasn't just a random celebrity guest, and he gives him all the credit. He put him in the work, and he became way better than anybody would have ever thought. but as good as he is certainly not one of them. He is not Rey Mysterio. He is not Seth Rollins. He is not Sami Zayn, or he is not Kevin Owens. And then Logan Paul is like, thank God, because I am a one for one. I am a one person of one. Of course, I'm your son's favorite superstar. He basically names all of his accolades, all that stuff. He calls himself the Maverick, Logan Paul. I am just me, says Logan Paul. Kevin Owens says he doesn't know what any of that meant, but he can come out to say anything he wants, but he can't come here to say things about him. There's a lot that we can talk about, and you know why. There's a lot that we can't talk about. And that line is very interesting. Kevin Owens stated, there's a lot that we can't talk about you. And a lot of people were pointing out about the whole crypto scam of Logan Paul, because Logan Paul is going through like some sort of crypto scam that he was developing. I don't know a lot about that, but that was really up Schitt's Creek around the wrestling community, and a lot of people immediately thought about that. But he says, we can't talk a lot about you. I know why. It's the same reason you are the U.S. champion. You are protected. You are sheltered. The second you come in, you were offered all of the tools. Because of all of this notoriety, to his credit, he used the tools and he became the United States champion. And it's great for him. Just as far as he is concerned, that is a joke. And it's a joke that it's been going on for too long. And of course, he will, end that joke at the Royal Rumble. And then Logan replies, he says, hypocrisy is stunning. He has a weapon and he knocked him down because of that cast that you have on your arm. And then Logan says that he knocks people out clean. And, of course, Logan says he knocked everybody out A, B, C, D. And like he said, it will only take him 1 second to KO punch him on KO. KO says that, it can take more punishment he can take more punishment from anybody and get back up. And, of course, he always got back up every single time. And there isn't a punch that he can throw that can keep him down for 3 seconds, let alone knock him out, says Kevin Owens. Then the cast won't be at the Royal Rumble, says Kevin Owens, and he will take it off if it makes him feel any better. And what happens is, once Kevin Owens was taking off his cast, Logan Paul hits the sucker punch out of nowhere on, of course, Kevin Owens. But once Logan Paul was celebrating, Kevin Owens from behind gets up and he screams, "Is that it? Is that it?" And then we get a takedown by Kevin Owens. Logan Paul rolls to the outside, and then the brawl breaks loose to the outside. And then Logan sends Kevin Owens' hands to the ring post. And then what happens is Logan Paul stands tall with the U.S. title. Of course, that match is going to be taking place at the Royal Rumble next Saturday at Tropicana Field. Overall thoughts on this segment. This was a very good segment. It comes to no surprise. I've been praising Logan Paul for a lot of the work that he has been doing in the WWE, and I'm just saying by the WWE. I don't know anything that he is involved with outside of the ring, and that is none of my business. But from what I can say about the wrestling career of Logan Paul is 100% a success because he grasped the idea of what wrestling is all about in a span of like a few months. And the matches that Logan Paul has had throughout, the months, matches that he had with guys like The Miz, the matches that he had with Roman Reigns, the match that he had with Seth Rollins, the match that he had with Ricochet, of course, him being showcased at the Money in the Bank ladder match. Logan Paul has done a lot. And he has done a lot, and he proved himself very well, and I think he will continue to prove himself in this match against Kevin Owens. But let's be honest with ourselves. Is Kevin Owens going to walk out of Tropicana Field at the Royal Rumble with the U.S. title? I absolutely do not think so. Logan Paul is going to keep that U.S. title all the way up until WrestleMania because there's another guy that is sniffing championship gold, and that guy is L.A. Knight. Of course, L.A. Knight and Logan Paul have some sort of a little bit type of beef. They have some sort of a beef. They kind of teased it a couple of months ago. I believe it was during the build-up to Money in the Bank. But nonetheless, LA Knight and Logan Paul match is 100% inevitable, and I do see that match happening, and I do see a guy like LA Knight taking the United States Championship from Logan Paul. But when it comes to Kevin Owens is going to make Logan Paul look like $1,000,000, and I do believe Logan Paul will make Kevin Owens look just as good as he already is, considering all of the knowledge that Logan Paul already possesses. So those are my thoughts on this match. I think this segment was great. I loved the back and forth when it came to the promos between both men. Yes, Logan Paul's promos, even though I think his work as a heel is great, I still think, though, his promos are a little bit over the top and kind of a little bit outlandish, but it is to be expected at this stage of the game. Roman Reigns is with the Bloodline backstage. He's pissed off. Of course, we got two of you, and I sent you guys out there, but nothing happened. And then Roman Reigns gets in the face of Jimmy Uso. He doesn't really get in the face of Jimmy Uso, but he targets Jimmy Uso, and he's about to say a lot of verbal things. And then Solo steps in, and he says, last week, this was on me, and I will fix it. Because, of course, you named me the enforcer, so I'm going to be fixing it. And that immediately tones down Roman's tune, and he's like, all right, you go fix it. I don't know, man. They're teasing a lot of stuff with Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns. They are teasing a lot of stuff with Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns. Let's be honest with ourselves. Solo Sikoa is slated to be the next tribal chief. When will that happen? That's going to happen months from now. Not even a chance, but I love how they're doing those slow teases when it comes to Solo Sikoa. That is great stuff. We had Kayden Carter and Katana Chance, the current women's tag team champions, to take on the Unholy Union, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. I believe we had a video package of Alba Fire and Isla Dawn last week on the SmackDown show, but we haven't really seen them on television for a while. I'm not going to really go through this match. I'm not going to lie. This match was kind of lame. Nothing against both teams. I love Kayden Carter and Katana Chance. They are a great tag team. They are the pure definition of a legitimate women's tag team in the women's division in WWE right now, and the work that they have been doing has been tremendous. But they've been put in an unfortunate position in which the crowd was just flat out dead, and they did not care at all on what was going on in this match, and that is the unfortunate thing. But I'm not going to go through this match, I'm not going to go through this match spot by spot because it was a relatively short match. It was a title match for the women's tag team titles, and Kayden Carter and Katana Chance ended up getting the win. Meanwhile, throughout the entirety of the match, we had Damage Control. Yes, Damage Control, consisting of Bayley, who was on commentary, Dakota Kai, Asuka, and Kairi Sane. They were, of course, involved, and of course Io Sky. I completely forgot about Io Sky. She is the current WWE Women's Champion. They were all on the outside, of course. Damage Control is, planning their little plot on Bayley, because we all know Bayley's gonna get whacked from Damage Control. I think Bayley's days in Damage Control are absolutely numbered at this point, and Bayley doesn't know it, but she's gonna get whacked. What happens is after the match, after, of course, Kayden Carter and Katana Chance retained their women's tag team titles, Asuka and Kairi Sane come in, and they have their belts, and they offer their belts to Kayden Carter and Katana Chance, and both of the baby faces snatch those belts from them, of course, making a title match, and I assume that the title match between, of course, Carter and Chance to take on Asuka and Kairi is going to be next week on SmackDown. I don't think it's going to be taking place at the Royal Rumble because I believe they're going to be involved in the Women's Royal Rumble match. That's just me, but I do assume that it's going to be taking place on the SmackDown show next Friday night. The OC. Yes, the OC, Doc Gallows or Luke Gallows, whatever you want to call him, Carl Anderson, and Michin Mia Yim are backstage. AJ Styles comes in, and he's been acting more of like a dick throughout the past couple of months. Of course, Doc Gallows says that they still have his back, and then AJ Styles immediately leaves. Then moving on, we got one of the... I was about to go straight to AJ Styles and LA Knight, but we have a Carmelo Hayes backstage segment. Of course, Carmelo Hayes wrestled Austin Theory, and the match ended abruptly. Thankfully, both Carmelo Hayes and Austin Theory were fine. There was no real issue, but hats off and kudos to WWE to stop that match because that could have easily, shortened the career of one or the other. So that was great that WWE stopped the match last week. But Carmelo Hayes, of course, Melo is backstage, and he says, in the heat of battle, things like this always happen. Thankfully, they walked away from it. Even though he didn't win, he also didn't lose. And it doesn't matter the circumstances, he will ball out, and he is him. And then Theory comes in. Austin Theory comes in, and he says he nearly tried to end his career, and now he gets an interview? You know who the hell I am. And then all of a sudden, Carmelo Hayes challenges him to a match next week. Theory says, that's a great idea, but I'm busy next week. Meanwhile, Grayson Waller, the dumbass who is right next to Austin Theory, says he accepts the challenge. And then Carmelo Hayes says, all right, he accepts. I'll go to Nick Aldis and I'll make this match official. So from what it looks like, we're going to be getting a rematch between Austin Theory and Carmelo Hayes next week on SmackDown. Overall, it's not a bad idea, but hopefully, nothing happens because, of course, last week, the match last week could have easily ended in a very negative way. But, even though it did end with a scare, from both men, thankfully both men are all right. Moving on, we got our first of two main events. AJ Styles wrestles LA Knight. Yeah, of course, both of these men are going to be involved in the Fatal 4-Way match at the Royal Rumble. Overall thoughts on this match? Again, both of these matches, both LA Knight versus AJ Styles and Randy Orton versus Solo Sikoa, both of those matches were relatively short, but both matches had one objective in mind. You could easily count this as one whole segment with commercial breaks in between. This was basically one whole segment to build up to the climax of Roman Reigns signing his contract for the Fatal 4-Way match to make the Fatal 4-Way match official at the Royal Rumble, and I like the way that they did it. So AJ Styles takes on LA Knight. Knight goes straight for the attack. Knight hits a side slam, and then Styles applies a side headlock. And then Knight drags AJ headfirst to the bottom turnbuckle, and then Knight drives his knees onto the back of AJ Styles. We then get a snap suplex by LA Knight, and then we get a cover and a near fall. We get a series of chops by AJ Styles, and then a series of chops by LA Knight. Both men exchange chops. AJ goes for a kick, and then AJ goes for a backbreaker. AJ then goes for a series of chops on LA Knight, and then LA Knight goes for repeated right hands. Knight then plants down AJ with the power slam, and then we get a cover and a near fall. We get repeated stomps by LA Knight. AJ then drives his knee on LA Knight on the apron. Knight then gets sent to the barricade, but then Knight drives AJ onto the barricade. And then Knight bumps the head of AJ repeatedly on the announce table. Then Jimmy Uso. Jimmy Uso comes out of the Bloodline, or from the Bloodline, I should say. He comes out, and then Knight is distracted. He walks towards AJ Styles, but then he walks into an enziguri. And then Solo Sikoa, the enforcer of the Bloodline, comes in out of nowhere and hits the Samoan spike on LA Knight, causing a disqualification. Of course, obviously the referee saw it. And then he takes AJ. He takes out AJ and he sends AJ across the steel steps. And then he sends AJ back into the ring, and he ends up hitting the Samoan spike on AJ Styles. Solo then gets the microphone, and he cuts this badass promo. It wasn't even really a promo. It was just 2 lines. 2 down, 1 to go. Randy Orton, get out here now. Of course, that leads us to go to commercial break, and once we're back, we get Randy Orton taking on Solo Sikoa. Solo Sikoa is already in the ring, and that leads to Randy Orton making his entrance. Nick Aldis is in the ringside area with the contract in hand because, of course, only 3 men in the presumed 4-way match only signed the contract. Roman Reigns, who is the current champion, did not sign his contract yet, so Nick Aldis is in the ringside area. But let's go through the match. We get a right hand taking Solo Sikoa down. Of course, we get a right hand by Solo taking Randy Orton down. We get a hip attack by Solo in the corner. On the outside, Solo tries to bump Randy on the announce table, but then Orton reverses. Solo then reverses back, and then he bumps the head of Randy on the announce table, and then he sends Randy to the steel steps. Once we're back from commercial break, Orton drives Solo onto the announce table, and then Solo fights off Randy Orton. He takes him back into the ring. We get a kick by Randy, and then he takes Solo onto the middle rope. He ends up hitting the DDT, but then Jimmy Uso enters the fray. LA Knight enters the fray, and Jimmy Uso hits a right. And then AJ, from behind, attacks Jimmy Uso. At this point, Randy is distracted. Randy turns around, but then Randy Orton ends up hitting the RKO out of nowhere, which leads to Randy Orton to get the win. After that, LA Knight and AJ come in the ring. All three men face off. Of course, the three men that are going to face off against Roman Reigns. But at the end of the day, it's every man for themselves. But all three men face off. And then LA Knight hits a right hand on AJ Styles because both of those guys have beef. And then after that, Randy Orton ends up hitting an RKO on LA Knight. AJ Styles stands up. And then Randy Orton, who has a lot of history with AJ Styles, of course, they wrestled back at WrestleMania 35. AJ Styles gets hit with the RKO. After that, Roman Reigns from behind ends up hitting the Superman punch. And then Roman Reigns asks for the contract. And what happens? Roman Reigns looks over the contract. No sweat. He signs the contract. And he signs the contract, and the match is official. It's going to be Roman Reigns versus LA Knight versus Randy Orton versus AJ Styles at the Royal Rumble. After that, the match is official. He gives it to Nick Aldis, but he doesn't give him the contract in a professional manner. Roman Reigns just drops the contract because he absolutely hates the Bloodline, and Roman Reigns absolutely hate the current SmackDown general manager, Nick Aldis. Then after that, Roman Reigns sets up the spear. But what happens is once he went to go for the spear on Randy Orton, he got caught with an RKO out of nowhere, which leads to Randy Orton to stand tall in front of everybody down. Roman Reigns is down. LA Knight is down. AJ Styles is down. The only man left standing is Randy Orton after he countered the spear by Roman Reigns and hit the RKO. And that concludes the SmackDown show. Overall thoughts on these last two matches, and of course the climax at the end. I thought it was kind of a great segue into Roman Reigns signing the contract, because that was really the whole premise of this entire show. Roman Reigns, when is he going to sign the freaking contract? Because all three men already signed the contract. Why didn't Roman Reigns sign the contract? And they were really building up to that. And of course the match is going to be taking place at the Royal Rumble. I loved the fact that Randy Orton countered a spear. I believe that took place at the 2017 Royal Rumble as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. I saw a tweet about that. But that was a pretty badass spot. I think the four-way match that is going to be taking place at the Royal Rumble is going to be a great four-way match. I think all four men are going to tear the house down. And it's an exciting match. But again, I urge everybody to slow their roll and stop with the speculation of Roman Reigns potentially dropping those titles in that four-way match at the Royal Rumble. Because it should not happen. I repeat, it should not happen. Roman Reigns, I keep repeating myself because clearly people on social media do not understand. Roman Reigns should not drop the undisputed titles in a four-way match at the Royal Rumble. Because then you fuck up Cody's story. And once you fuck up Cody's story, what are we doing here? We have to ask ourselves that question. What are we doing here? What is the point? Don't fuck over Cody, please. Cody Rhodes, man, this guy deserves the world, and, he's scratching his head right now like, bro, all these plans are changing for WrestleMania, man. What if I don't finish my story this year at WrestleMania? What the hell is going to happen? Cody needs to finish his story against Roman Reigns. End off. Roman Reigns, that's where the story ends. The story ends with Cody beating Roman and ending his 1,000-plus reign. That is finishing the story. But when it comes to the Royal Rumble, Roman Reigns should not drop those titles. I keep repeating myself the last 2 weeks because people do not understand, but Roman should not drop those titles. Because from a creative standpoint, it makes absolutely no sense. And if you really think about it from a business sense, it makes absolutely no sense. Because Roman is the face of the company. You invested all this time and money on the tribal chief, the head of the table, Roman Reigns, only for him to drop it in a fatal four-way match? Come on now. If that just reeks of uncreativity, in my opinion. So Roman should not drop the titles, but I have full faith in Triple H and his team that Roman Reigns is going to be retaining. But yeah, that was my SmackDown review from January 19th, 2024. Of course, we are heading closer and closer to the Royal Rumble, and of course, the Royal Rumble begins the road to WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia. Overall thoughts on this show. It was a pretty good show. Of course, I'm excited about next week's show. Next week is the go-home SmackDown for the Royal Rumble, and there's going to be a lot of interesting things happening in that show. And, of course, a lot of interesting things happening at the Royal Rumble. A lot of concern right now when it comes to the Royal Rumble and who could possibly win the Royal Rumble. Not only that, a lot of concern when it comes to the Night 1 main event of WrestleMania, considering Seth Rollins is currently injured, and he's going to be addressing everybody this Monday night on Raw. And in my opinion, if Seth Rollins announces that he's going to be relinquishing the World Heavyweight title, it could easily, I'm not saying it's going to directly affect the main event when it regards to Roman Reigns, but it's in some way going to affect what Roman Reigns is going to be doing, because you never know what WWE could be doing with the World Heavyweight title if Seth Rollins has to relinquish that title. But we're going to have to wait and see this coming Monday. But a lot of concern right now, a lot of concern regarding Seth Rollins, because, of course, everybody wants to see CM Punk versus Seth Rollins in the main event of Night 1 at WrestleMania. That is exactly what I want to see, and I don't want that match to get robbed. But yeah, that was my SmackDown review from January 19th, 2024. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications, and be on the lookout for more videos right here on the Wrestle Havoc channel, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the Squared Circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the friggin' referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And as always, it is yours truly, Flamin' Ricky DeRays, signing out. I'll see you guys all later. Peace.